Our lesson for today is just going to be a couple of quick examples on how we solve inequalities to isolate our variable. In this case, it's going to be x. So this is our more simple one to start with. The first thing we notice is that we have a 2 outside of the brackets here, and our bracket has our x inside of it, so we know we need to do something to either remove that 2 or expand the bracket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this bracket. I'm going to multiply the 2 by both terms inside of the bracket. And it is really important that we multiply by both terms. So we end up with 2x plus 10 is less than a negative 2. And that looks something like the examples that we did last class. And we should be able to solve from here. So our first step would be to remove that plus 10 operation so that we're able to isolate the term that has x in it. So I'm going to subtract the 10 from both sides. And that will leave me with a 2x is less than a negative 12. Now I subtracted a negative. Our rule for solving an inequality is that we only change our sign if we multiply or divide by a negative. In this case, I need to do division by 2 in order to isolate my x. And because, again, this is a positive 2, I don't need to change the direction of my sign. And I end up with x is less than a negative 6. If I asked you to graph our answer on a number line, because it's x is less than negative 6, what we would do is we would start at our negative 6 value. And because it's less than and not less than or equal to, the way that we would show that negative 6 is not included is by drawing an open circle, so a circle that is not colored in. And we want our x values to be less than negative 6. So we're looking at the values that are to the left here in that negative direction. So here we have another example of solving for x in an inequality. And in this case, we have a fraction in our first term, and that's the term that has the x in it. So I know that I'm going to at some point remove that fraction. And I know that I can actually start by adding the 4 on both sides to remove this term here. But I want to get a little bit of practice with what do I do if I have a denominator and I want to multiply everything to get rid of it. So let's say here that I have a negative 2x over 9. Well, over 9 means it's divided by 9. So if I want to remove that division by 9, I have to do the opposite operation, and that's a multiplication by 9. However, if I multiply this term by 9, I have to multiply both terms on the left and my one term on the right. So what does that look like? Well, I'm going to multiply 9 by my first term here, negative 2x over 9. And what I see happening is that I have 9 and 9 canceling each other out, and I'm just left with a negative 2x. I do not need to multiply that negative 2x by 9 because the 9 on the top and the 9 on the bottom cancel each other out. Then I have to multiply my second term by 9, and it's going to give me a negative 36. On the right, I have 18. I don't need to change the direction of my sign because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number. And we remember that's our rule for solving inequalities. From here on in, it looks exactly like our last example, so I'll be adding the 36 on both sides. Now here I need to be very careful because I'm dividing by a negative 2 on both sides. So my final answer turns out to be x is less than or equal to 27. And that's our second example for the day.